Ladies and gentlemen, let us speak of a matter that too often goes unnamed in our world, yet its subtle shadow stretches long over the hearts of many. Imagine, if you will, an unseen hand, cold and calculating, reaching into the very depths of your soul to unravel the light within. This is no mere fancy. It is an assault on the unseen battleground of the spirit. First, there comes the sudden grip of unexplainable fear, not born of circumstance, but conjured from some invisible malice. It is the kind of dread that makes the ordinary world seem foreign and sinister, as though something dark lingers just out of sight. Then there is the fracturing of thought, a disarray of the mind, as if clarity has been shrouded by fog. Reason falters, and decisions that once seemed straightforward now feel insurmountable. The third sign is spiritual weariness. The soul, that most enduring of things, feels burdened beyond its limits. The comfort of prayer or the solace of reflection seems distant, replaced by a gnawing sense of futility. And how often does such an attack manifest in our relationships? Unusual conflict emerges where there was once peace. Sharp words, bitter misunderstandings, and a gnawing sense that the bonds of love are being frayed by unseen claws. When night falls, another sign may emerge. Nightmares, vivid and dark, leaving you shaken and fearful, as though some sinister presence had whispered in your ear as you slept. Fifth, there are the physical symptoms that seem to defy logic or remedy. Fatigue that no rest can cure, pains without injury, and a persistent sense of being drained. Finally, there is the voice of despair, insidious and cruel. It whispers that hope is a fantasy and that joy is forever out of reach. It sows seeds of doubt that grow into vines, choking the spirit. Fear is a curious thing. It is one of the most basic and primal emotions, designed to warn us of danger and prepare us for survival. Yet there is a particular kind of fear that defies reason, a fear that seems to spring from nowhere and clings to the edges of our souls like a dark mist. It's not the kind of fear sparked by a sudden noise or the sight of a threatening figure. It is subtler, more insidious. It seeps into the cracks of your mind, planting seeds of dread that blossom into paralyzing terror. This is no ordinary fear. It is something far deeper, darker, and altogether unnatural. This fear can feel as though it doesn't belong to you, as if it were imposed by an external force seeking to disrupt your sense of stability. Imagine waking up one morning with your chest heavy, your breath short, and your heart racing without any discernible reason. There are no looming deadlines, no arguments unresolved, no threats apparent. Yet you feel as if you are standing on the edge of an abyss, waiting for it to swallow you whole. Such fear seems to radiate from the unseen, an invisible presence pressing against your spirit with relentless intensity. It whispers lies in the quiet hours of the night, feeding on your vulnerabilities. You might find yourself questioning everything, your choices, your safety, even your worth. What if something terrible happens? What if I'm not enough? What if this feeling never leaves? These aren't mere thoughts. They become chains that tighten around your mind, holding you captive in a prison of anxiety. It whispers lies in your mind, holding you captive in a prison of anxiety, You may try to shake it off, rationalize it, or distract yourself, but it lingers stubbornly, as though it has a life of its own. For those who are spiritually attuned, this type of fear often carries a strange energy. It is as if the air around you is charged, heavy with something unseen. You might feel cold without cause or sense that you are being watched, though no one is there. It is an invasion of the ordinary, a disruption of the peace you once took for granted. Such fear isn't satisfied with mere presence. It seeks to drain you of courage, to erode your faith in what is good, true, and steadfast. What makes this fear so potent is its ability to isolate. It whispers to you that no one would understand, that you must carry this burden alone. The irony is cruel, for the very help you need, connection, truth, and reassurance, seems beyond reach. You might hesitate to share your feelings, fearing judgment or dismissal, further deepening the hold of this shadowy terror. And yet, like all dark things, this fear cannot endure the light. Its power lies in its secrecy, in its ability to make you believe it is insurmountable. But when you name it, when you speak of it, you begin to strip it of its power. Fear thrives on uncertainty and obscurity, but clarity and truth are its undoing. The moment you recognize this unexplainable fear for what it is, a shadow, a distortion, an attack, it begins to lose its grip. Perhaps its most devastating weapon is the illusion of permanence, the lie that the fear will always be there, lurking at the edge of your consciousness. But you must remember that no shadow is eternal. Even the darkest night gives way to dawn. The fear you feel is not the end of the story. It is a moment, a season, a trial meant to be overcome. When you face such fear, take heart in this: you are not alone, no matter what the fear tells you. Whether through faith, friendship, or sheer resilience, you have the tools to push back. Speak truth into the lies, call upon light to pierce the shadow, and trust that the power of fear pales in comparison to the strength of a soul rooted in hope. In the quiet recesses of our minds, we often take solace in the clarity of our thoughts, trusting in the seamless flow of ideas and the coherence of our reasoning. Yet there are moments when this inner sanctuary is disrupted, when our thoughts become fragmented and our mental landscape resembles a shattered mirror, each piece reflecting a distorted reality. This phenomenon, though unsettling, warrants our contemplation. Imagine, if you will, sitting down to engage in a task that once brought you ease and satisfaction. Perhaps it's writing a letter to a dear friend, or delving into a book that has long awaited your attention. But today, the words evade you, sentences begin only to trail off into ambiguity. The narrative thread you once followed effortlessly now tangles and knots, leaving you in a maze of unfinished ideas. When have you been able to relax and revel in pleasure? Sentences begin only to trail off into ambiguity. This is not mere distraction. It is as if an unseen hand has scattered your thoughts to the wind, leaving you grasping at fragments. Such experiences are not merely inconvenient. They strike at the very core of our identity. Our ability to think clearly, to reason, and to articulate our innermost reflections is fundamental to who we are. When this capacity is compromised, we may feel unmoored, adrift in a sea of confusion. The familiar becomes foreign, and we begin to question our own cognitive faculties. It is essential to recognize that these episodes of mental fragmentation can stem from various sources. Fatigue, stress, and emotional turmoil are common culprits, often conspiring to cloud our minds. In such cases, the remedy may be as simple as rest, reflection, or seeking solace in the company of others. However, there are instances where the cause is less apparent, where the disruption feels imposed rather than arising from within. Throughout history, there have been accounts of individuals who, in the midst of their daily lives, suddenly found their thoughts in disarray, their judgment impaired, and their perception skewed. They spoke of an external force, an oppressive presence that sought to sow chaos in their minds. While modern sensibilities may incline us to dismiss such notions as mere superstition, it is worth considering the symbolic truth they convey. Nonetheless, as history shows, human beings have already experienced paranormal things, from the horrible sensations of scarcity, whether or not one subscribes to the existence of malevolent entities. The experience of having one's thoughts fractured by an external influence is a powerful metaphor for the vulnerabilities inherent in the human condition. In confronting these challenges, it is imperative to cultivate practices that anchor us. Mindfulness, meditation, and prayer have long been heralded as means to center the mind and restore clarity. Engaging in creative endeavors, spending time in nature, and fostering meaningful connections with others can also serve to realign our thoughts and dispel the shadows that seek to obscure our mental landscape. Moreover, we must be vigilant in discerning the sources of our mental disturbances. In an age inundated with information, misinformation, and the incessant clamor of competing narratives, it is all too easy for our thoughts to become fragmented. By curating the content we consume, setting boundaries, and allowing ourselves moments of quietude, we can protect the sanctity of our minds. Forgiveness is a higher priority than controlling the emotion. There is a fatigue that goes beyond the physical, one that seeps into the very core of our being and weighs down the spirit. It is not the exhaustion of a sleepless night or a hard day's work, but something deeper, harder to define and more difficult to shake. This weariness is spiritual in nature, a sense of heaviness that touches the soul, leaving one feeling detached, disconnected, and adrift. It often begins subtly, like a whisper in the background of your thoughts. The routines of prayer, meditation, or contemplation that once brought comfort and clarity now feel hollow and mechanical. The moments that once inspired awe, a sunrise, a stirring piece of music, a kind word from a stranger, seem muted, as though viewed through a fog. There is a gnawing sense of disconnection, as though the vibrant thread that ties you to the divine, to the greater whole, has frayed. Spiritual weariness is not merely sadness or melancholy, though it may carry shades of both. It is an erosion of the vitality that once energized the soul, a creeping numbness that makes even the simplest acts of devotion feel burdensome. You may find yourself questioning the purpose of your practices, doubting their efficacy, or feeling as though your efforts are met with silence. This sense of spiritual estrangement can be profoundly unsettling, leaving you wondering if you've somehow lost your way. Footnote: there are many factors that can contribute to spiritual weariness. Life's challenges, grief, disappointment, prolonged stress, can weigh heavily on the soul, sapping its strength. Unanswered prayers or unresolved questions may lead to feelings of abandonment or doubt. The pressures of daily life, with its endless demands and distractions, can make it difficult to create space for the soul to breathe. In some cases, the weariness comes not from external circumstances, but from within. A sense that you've lost sight of your purpose, or that your spiritual practices have become rote and lifeless. End of poem number 7. This weariness is often accompanied by a sense of isolation. It feels as though no one truly understands the depth of your struggle, and sharing it may seem futile or even embarrassing. You might fear being judged as weak or faithless, so you carry the burden alone, further deepening the sense of disconnection. The irony is that this very isolation is part of the weariness itself, as the soul was never meant to journey through life entirely alone. In the face of spiritual weariness, the temptation is often to withdraw, to retreat from prayer, to avoid community, to let go of the practices that once nourished the soul. Yet this is precisely the moment when perseverance is most needed. The path to renewal often begins with small, quiet acts of resistance against the weight of weariness. Start where you are, even if that place feels distant and empty. If prayer feels impossible, simply sit in silence. If words escape you, allow your heart to speak in its own unspoken language. Surround yourself with reminders of beauty and truth, whether through art, nature, or the presence of those who uplift your spirit. Seek the counsel of a trusted friend, mentor, or spiritual guide who can walk with you through the shadows. There are times when conflict arises naturally, born of differing perspectives, misunderstandings, or the challenges of human relationships. Such disagreements, though uncomfortable, often have clear origins and resolutions. But then there are moments when discord seems to appear out of nowhere, unexpected, irrational, and deeply unsettling. This is what we might call unusual conflict, a type of strife that feels out of proportion, as though stirred by something unseen. Unusual conflict often takes root in the most unlikely of places. Relationships that once brought harmony, environments that once offered peace, and situations that once seemed steady. Suddenly, sharp words are exchanged where laughter once rang, and misunderstandings abound where mutual understanding was once taken for granted. The conflict is not merely a difference of opinion. It feels charged, as though an invisible force is fanning the flames of discord. You might notice this type of conflict creeping into your life without warning. A friend's innocent comment is interpreted as an insult. A small oversight becomes the catalyst for a heated argument. Perhaps a tension arises that neither party can fully explain, leaving both bewildered and defensive. The air between you feels heavier, clouded by suspicion or resentment that seem to appear overnight. One of the hallmarks of unusual conflict is its persistence. Unlike typical disagreements which fade with time or resolution, these conflicts seem to linger and escalate. Attempts to address the issue often fail, as though the words spoken are twisted in transit, further deepening the divide. It feels as if there is something working against reconciliation, an unseen hand pushing people further apart. This kind of strife can be particularly disheartening because it strikes at the core of trust and unity. Relationships that once felt unshakable are suddenly fraught with tension, leaving you questioning their foundation. In some cases, the conflict feels inexplicable, as though it has no clear cause or purpose. The result is a profound sense of unease, as though the very fabric of connection has been frayed. Unusual conflict can stem from a variety of sources. At times it may be the result of external pressures, stress, fatigue, or unresolved personal struggles spilling over into interactions. However, there are moments when the discord feels inexplicably amplified, as though something is actively working to divide. Whether one views this through a spiritual lens, seeing it as an attack on unity, or simply as the result of negative energy compounding, the experience remains profoundly unsettling. Navigating unusual conflict requires more than just the usual tools of communication and compromise. It demands patience, discernment, and a willingness to look beyond the surface of the disagreement. First and foremost, it is crucial to pause and step back, creating space for reflection. Ask yourself, is this conflict truly about the issue at hand, or is there something deeper at play? Recognizing that the strife may have an unseen dimension can help you approach it with greater clarity and compassion. In moments of unusual conflict, it is essential to guard against the temptation to retaliate or escalate. When emotions run high, words spoken in haste can inflict lasting wounds. Instead, seek to respond with grace, even when it feels undeserved. Sometimes the most powerful step you can take is to diffuse tension with kindness and understanding. Another vital step is to invite light into the situation, whether through prayer, meditation, or seeking wise counsel. Bringing the conflict into the open and addressing it with humility can often reveal the true source of the discord. Sometimes, the mere act of acknowledging the unusual nature of the conflict can begin to unravel its hold. Finally, resist the urge to isolate yourself. Unusual conflict thrives in silence and secrecy, feeding on unresolved tension and unspoken grievances. By reaching out to trusted friends, mentors, or spiritual advisors, you can gain perspective and support in navigating the challenge. Remember, unusual conflict, while deeply unsettling, is not insurmountable. It is a disruption, not a conclusion. With patience, perseverance, and a commitment to seeking peace, even the most inexplicable strife can give way to reconciliation and renewed understanding. In the stillness of night, when the world is quiet and rest should come easily, there are times when sleep becomes a battleground. Recurring nightmares invade the mind, unbidden and relentless, transforming what should be a sanctuary into a place of dread. These dreams, vivid and unsettling, grip the heart with fear and linger long after waking, casting a shadow over the day. Recurring nightmares are not like fleeting bad dreams. They follow a pattern, returning night after night with a strange and almost purposeful persistence. Though the specifics of the dream may vary, the core theme remains the same: loss, danger, failure, or some inexplicable terror. It is as if the mind, or perhaps something beyond it, is determined to replay a story you wish to forget. The emotional toll of such nightmares is profound. They disrupt not only sleep, but also the peace and security that sleep is meant to provide. The hours meant for restoration become hours of anxiety, and the body wakes feeling as if it has endured a trial rather than a reprieve. For some, the mere thought of going to bed becomes a source of unease, as though sleep is an invitation for the nightmare to return. The imagery of recurring nightmares is often deeply symbolic, drawing from the subconscious to weave stories that tap into hidden fears, unresolved trauma, or unmet needs. A person drowning might represent feelings of being overwhelmed in waking life. Dreams of falling might echo fears of losing control, while being chased often symbolizes avoidance of a problem or emotion that feels too difficult to confront. Yet even with such insights, the recurrence of these dreams can feel as though they are charged with a force greater than mere psychology. We reach for the excuses we can and explain ways away from the deep truths we cannot share. There are those who interpret recurring nightmares through a spiritual lens, seeing them as warnings, attacks, or messages from the unseen. In such cases, the nightmares may seem to carry an oppressive energy, as though something is actively seeking to disturb rest and sow fear. Regardless of one's interpretation, the effect is often the same: distress, fatigue, and a sense of vulnerability that can seep into waking life. Recurring nightmares can leave a person questioning their mental and emotional stability. They might wonder why their mind insists on revisiting these dark places, or if there is something wrong with them for being unable to escape the cycle. Addressing recurring nightmares begins with acknowledging their presence. Ignoring them or suppressing their significance often only allows them to persist. Instead, it can be helpful to approach them with curiosity and compassion. What might these dreams be trying to reveal? Is there a fear, pain, or conflict that has been left unresolved in waking life? Journaling about the dreams, talking with a trusted friend, or seeking the guidance of a counselor or spiritual advisor can provide insights that help break the cycle. It is also vital to create a sense of safety and calm before sleep. Simple practices like mindfulness, prayer, or deep breathing can help quiet the mind and prepare the body for rest. Surrounding yourself with comforting symbols or reminders of peace, whether it's soft lighting, soothing music, or personal mementos, can create an environment that feels more secure. In some cases, recurring nightmares may require deeper intervention. Therapy, particularly trauma-focused approaches like EMDR or cognitive behavioral techniques, can be effective in addressing the underlying issues that fuel these dreams. Additionally, spiritual practices like cleansing rituals, prayer, or meditation can be powerful tools for those who view their nightmares through a spiritual framework. Recurring nightmares, while deeply unsettling, are not insurmountable. They are an invitation, albeit an unwelcome one, to face the fears and shadows that may be hidden in the corners of the mind or heart. By meeting these dreams with courage, seeking understanding, and fostering practices of peace, it is possible to reclaim the rest and renewal that sleep is meant to provide. There are few things more unsettling than experiencing physical symptoms that seem to arise without explanation. Aches, pains, fatigue, or other discomforts manifest, yet no clear cause can be found. Medical tests return inconclusive or normal results, leaving you puzzled and frustrated. The body, which is meant to communicate its needs clearly, instead becomes a mystery, hinting at an imbalance that defies conventional understanding. These symptoms can take many forms. For some, it is a persistent headache that dulls the senses and clouds the mind. For others, it might be a sudden wave of exhaustion that makes even simple tasks feel insurmountable. Some experience a tightening in the chest, unexplained nausea, or an ache in the muscles and joints, as though the body itself is carrying an invisible burden. The symptoms may come and go, or they may linger, refusing to be ignored. What makes these experiences particularly troubling is their elusiveness. They do not follow the usual patterns of illness, where a clear cause and effect relationship can be identified. Instead, they seem to arise out of nowhere, defying logic and leaving you to question their origin. Are they the result of stress, an unacknowledged emotion, or could there be something more mysterious at work? When physical symptoms appear without a clear cause, it is natural to seek answers in the realm of the physical. Doctors, tests, and treatments become the first line of inquiry as we hope to uncover an explanation that will bring relief. And yet, when the answers fail to materialize, a deeper sense of unease can set in. The uncertainty becomes a weight of its own, adding to the physical discomfort with a layer of emotional and mental strain. In some cases, these symptoms may have roots that are emotional or psychological rather than strictly physical. Stress and anxiety, for example, are well known to manifest in the body in surprising ways. A clenched jaw may lead to headaches. Unprocessed grief might create a feeling of heaviness, and chronic worry can sap the energy needed for daily life. The body and mind are deeply interconnected, and when the heart carries an unresolved burden, the body often steps in to signal that something needs attention. Yet there are also moments when the symptoms feel as though they carry an energy that is not entirely your own. A strange heaviness that descends without warning, chills that seem to come from nowhere, or an unshakable sense of unease may feel as though they're imposed by an external force. This interpretation, often viewed through a spiritual lens, suggests that the body can act as a battleground where unseen influences seek to disrupt, distract, or drain. Regardless of the cause, the impact of unexplained physical symptoms is profound. They can disrupt routines, strain relationships, and erode a sense of security. You may begin to question not only your health, but your own perception, wondering if the symptoms are all in your head. This self-doubt can create a cycle where the lack of answers intensifies the stress, further exacerbating the symptoms. Addressing these symptoms requires a holistic approach, one that considers the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of well-being. Start by listening to your body. It is a communicator, even when its messages seem cryptic. Are there areas of your life where tension has built up? Are you carrying stress, grief, or unresolved emotions that need to be acknowledged? Journaling, counseling, or even speaking openly to a trusted friend can help uncover hidden connections between your inner life and your physical experiences. At the same time, nurture your body with care. Regular movement, nourishing food, and restorative sleep are foundational to healing, even when the cause of your symptoms remains unclear. In conclusion, while the experience of fractured thoughts can be disconcerting, it also offers an opportunity for introspection and growth. It reminds us of the delicate balance that sustains our mental well-being and the need for intentional practices to maintain it. By acknowledging the fragility of our cognitive processes and taking proactive steps to nurture them, we can navigate through the fog of confusion and emerge with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. Thank you for watching.